I was in the crowd when Lasha went head-to-head with Badad Salimi, and it was electric. Let's break down this legendary battle, and I'm going to tell you how the whole thing went down from my perspective. Transport yourself to the year 2017, Anaheim, California, sunny, beautiful environment, and you are sitting in the convention center hall, not more than 15 to 20 feet away from a platform with this mountain of a man, the session of sessions, the super heavyweights, and you're gonna watch Badad Salimi next to me with Lasha Talahadze, and this was an incredible battle. It was an incredible event. There's a lot going on here that I wanna kind of relay to you guys that was not really obvious because it was involving the audience, it involved the other competitors, and let's jump into it right now. So here we go. We have Lasha Talahadze. He's gonna go for his opening attempt, I think 210 here, which is like one of the biggest opening attempts ever. Remember, in 2017 here, no one had snatched 220 kilos. I think Badad Salimi had held the world record at 216 prior to this. So 210 snatch for Lasha. I can't describe to you what the environment was like at this competition, but it was a massive crowd. There was bleachers extending up, and the Iranian fans were some of the most insane fans I've ever experienced at an event before. They were going absolutely crazy. Let's go back just a slight bit. You can see before he steps on stage, take a look, upper left corner here. Look at that flag. They must have had a 20-foot wide flag. The Iranians showed up in full force. They were screaming anytime a non-Iranian lifter was lifting. They were trying to get them to miss. So you have to understand, there's two groups in the audience here. There's the Iranians and there's basically everyone else. The American fans were in full force. Most of USA Weightlifting was there. I was there. We were sitting to the right of the stage, right? So, you know, Salimi, he looks like he's talking to me there. He's pointing at the platform. I think he wanted it cleaned off. He was not having a phenomenal meet, but up until this point, you had Iranian fans just ripping into the audience, going crazy. There's Justin Thacker. That's unfortunate to see him there, but yeah, so big lifting here. He's getting the platform cleaned off, and you know, whole thing's going down. Iranians are going nuts. We're in the audience watching this whole thing unfold, and you know, let's watch this attempt, and I'll kind of explain as we go down this line what's going on. But there it is. There's the contingency. This whole group, this whole section of the audience is Iranian and just unrelenting with their heckling and screaming at non-Iranian lifters. So another thing here that's going on is it's already happened, but Saeed Ali Husseini, the second Iranian in this competition, who had a lifetime ban because he had 2 positive drug tests basically just out of his junior career, was out of the sport forever. Then they changed the rule from your second ban being lifetime to being 8 years. So he became eligible to lift again, and he came back and did this competition. I think he only did about 203 or something like that, 206 only, which was really good, but you know, unfortunately we never really got to see his full potential. So here's Salimi. This is his 211 to pass Lasha. You know, makes a big lift. He's there. He's now ahead of Lasha. There's the fans going absolutely crazy. I mean, just, it's so hard to convey how nuts they were. If you go to any sporting event and you see fans going crazy, it's nothing. They were just trying to destroy everyone who was not Salimi. So makes the 211. I'm gonna say I think he jumps to 216, and I believe Lasha went to 215 after his opener. So Salimi's done 2 lifts. There's the Iranian coach changing the attempts. And then Lasha, I believe, is going to come out before him. Yeah, so overall, really, really good battle here. This is kind of setting the stage, though, for what happens later in the clean and jerk. But there's Lasha. He's done 210 on his opener. I want to say he takes 215. It's going to be him coming out. They're the last 2 snatchers, obviously. Yeah, so his 215. You had to remember at the time, very, very few athletes had done a 215 snatch. There's maybe just a few in the entire few decades before Lasha's era. but this 215 would be massive. You're still not sure what Lasha can do. You got to remember, he hadn't done 220 at the time. You know he's crazy, you know he's really good, but that 215 was just like massive. It was crazy to see somebody do that. You still, though, had to remember, like, Salimi is the world record holder at the time, or was, right there. Is he going to beat Lasha? Is this going to be like the Iranians win and they just dominate still as supers? Or can this young Georgian guy kind of come up and defeat them? Lasha looking very young here, very, very thin compared to what he was in 2021 when he did the 492. Real quick, if you're looking for a personalized, adaptive weightlifting program that's made completely for you and adapts daily to your needs, check out Weightlifting AI. It is the only product of its kind. It has been battle tested by thousands of lifters who are hitting PRs every day, and you can try it for 2 weeks completely free by using the code 2weektrial at checkout. It's the first link in the description of this video. Salimi comes out here. He's going to take the 216 for the lead. He thinks, I'm the reigning snatch world record holder. I'm going to win. I've got the support of the most despicable fans on earth here cheering for me and hating on everybody else. Now they're okay, guys, but they were nuts this day. So 216 here. Let's see what happens. In the audience, the American audience, you're kind of just waiting to see what happens. Almost made the lift. This is where it starts to become a question of, okay, is this young Georgian guy going to win? Is this guy that's kind of an unknown? I mean, obviously we know who he is, but he wasn't the superstar that he became after this event. This is 2017, mind you. So this is, 8 years ago. He doesn't make the 216. Now Lasha's winning the snatch, but the question is, what does he come out for? Is he going to take a 217? Is he going to break the all-time record? And when he called 220, you just had to think to yourself, like, no way, are we going to see a 220 kilo snatch? I was sitting in the seats, basically right to the left, right behind that scores table there. I was cheering for him. I was yelling at him, hey, you can make this. I think he heard me. Pretty sure he gave me a quick wink. They're not going to catch it on here, but he definitely acknowledged my presence, making sure he knew that I was rooting for him. But watch, this 220, first time it ever happens, and everybody, every weightlifting fan I can think of in the U.S. was there. USAW was there. The World Championships were going on. Right after this event was the American Open as well. So you had a humongous audience. But there it is, 220, first time ever on the platform, and it was electric. It was insane. Everybody was just fired up there. Let's go back. Hold on. Did I just see weightlifting royalty here? There's old Butch Curry there. Rest in peace. But that's the American audience. They were just so ecstatic to see that. 220 was awesome. For me, it was cool to see such a historic lift. To see a 220 snatch for the first time, you don't know if you're ever going to see it again. You don't know what that significant, event is. This is a one-off thing and that's it, and you're lucky enough to see it. I don't think anyone would have expected him to do what he did as time went on to get all the way to 225, but to do so many 220 kilo snatches after this event. He was basically a newcomer. Pretty amazing to see that. What's really cool is kind of what happens in the clean and jerk, and I want to sort of set the stage here because we're not going to see it, I don't think, in this video, but basically what was happening is other lifters were coming out, they were taking attempts at big weights, and the Iranians were basically like, there's Saeed Ali Husseini, he did, I think, a 203, 206. He was incredibly strong, but just didn't really get to see his best career. Anyways, back to the story. The Iranian fans are just going nuts. They're heckling everybody that's not Iranian. They're just trying to destroy everybody. And what transpires is a series of events where different lifters are coming out and they're struggling and they're getting heckled and they're getting booed and they're getting jeered at during their lifting. These guys are trying to make big lifts. I want to say Mart Seam was trying for like a 253 clean and jerk, something in that range, and the fans were just roasting him and just destroying him, and he was missing the lift. And it got to the point where he goes for his third attempt clean and jerk to make it. And the Iranian fans are cheering so just vehemently against him that the entire audience, and you had to kind of be there to feel the energy, but the entire audience, the American contingency was just like, we're not gonna have this. And everybody stood up out of their chairs and started just trying to drown out the Iranians, clapping for him and just trying to get him fired up and showing this amazing support. And you kind of feel like in the moment, like, hey, we're in support of this guy, like screw these fans, screw these guys. Everyone's cheering, just going nuts, cheering. And he actually comes out and makes the lift, makes the clean and jerk. And it was like such a moment of fan participation. You just love the sport, you love to be a part of it. And to have that all happen was so fun, so cool to see. So yeah, that all happens basically before Lasha and Salimi kind of come out to finish this thing off. I mean, it's kind of in the middle of it, but that's a side story that I think was cool to see, cool to be a part of. You know, you got to see the 220. You're seeing the Iranian sort of reign of victory for the last few years. Because Salimi was crushing people from 2011 onward. I mean, 2015, Lovchev won, and he kind of was half and half there. But like Salimi was, you know, definitely a potential favorite. Lasha had won the Olympics in 2016, but the fact that Salimi was still this big thing, it was kind of ending now. This was the tail end of his career, and Lasha was the new up-and-comer. But for us to be a part of this and to see this kind of like this massive Iranian support, heckling everybody, trying to tear them down, and be a part of like kind of stopping that was fun. It was really cool to be a part of that, to see that whole thing kind of unfold, to watch Lasha really emerge as this, you know, dominant force early in his career. The 220 snatch, I think, was the turning point where we started to see the superstar that he is emerge, and he kind of just marched on from that point to basically be probably the most prolific super we've ever had. I mean, if you attribute every 210, 215 kilo snatch in the world, he owns most of the ones done. And he's the only one ever to do 220 or more. So, you know, became the best of all times, the 492 total. Just awesome. Awesome to see all that. It was really cool to be a part of it and to see that 220 snatch. But that whole story was always cool. I kind of hold that near and dear, just to know that he, you know, there was lifters getting beaten by the crowd, kind of beaten up by the crowd, and the crowd kind of pushed back on them. And then to see that whole thing with the 220, it was just a fun experience. So 2017 Worlds, Lasha Telahadze. Go back and check it out. Check out the whole competition. See if you can find the videos where the whole crowd is jeering for other lifters. And then and I'm going to give myself credit. You know, I was cheering pretty loud. I was clapping. I kind of helped make that lift happen. I was there. I was supporting that 220. I'm going to give myself a little credit for that one. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and be sure to check out my other video where I cover Lasha's biggest lifts ever, his 492 total. I will see you there.